Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Headlines. I'm your host, Odette Campbell. So much has been happening in our country in the last couple of weeks and especially in the last 5 or so days. And today we heard major announcements being made following on from a presentation made by the Minister of Health yesterday with the tightening of the state of emergency. I am very pleased to have with me on tonight's program the Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for operations, Mr. Jesmond Prince. Mr. Prince, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And I know it's a pleasure to be here because you want to inform the public on all the latest development, but let me apologize to you for having you rush from one thing to another to another to another. I know you could have done with a little breakdown time tonight, but the public is very happy that you made the sacrifice to be here. And
I'm happy to be here too, because we serve the people, and when the people demand for us to give them information, that's what we're going to do.
Good.
So I'm happy to be here for that.
And we will also try to make contact with Dr. Matthew Memoli. He is the Director of Clinical Studies, the unit at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and he's based in the United States. And should he be able to join, we will forever be grateful to St. George's University. Karen Clement continues to offer yeoman service, collaborating with the GBN to provide so much great support for us and to help the Grenadian public to unravel and to break down these very complex issues surrounding COVID-19. So hopefully we will be able to have him joining us a little later in the program via Skype. But in the first segment, we want to deal with the latest developments regarding the state of emergency, and we know that there were some changes in the last 24 hours. So let's see what you have to tell us. Some people would have heard about some of the changes today. What would you first like to tell the Grenadian public tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we appreciate the support that we've gotten from the general public thus far, but we still believe that there are quite a bit of persons within the community who are still reluctant in applying and observing some of the regulations that have been stipulated. So tonight I think we have an opportunity, if there is any doubt or if there is any concern, tonight we have an opportunity to clarify that. And certainly I would like to make and to say that the RGPF will do all that it can to ensure that the state of emergency is observed to the fullest, and that persons are well informed. So if at all any person is found to be in violation of this, then they would have no excuse. So
let's break it down, and we have some slides to help us along, so to help people get a visual and to understand some of the changes that have been made. So the first one.
Yes. Okay. Mandatory curfew from 7 p.m. tonight. As of 7 p.m. tonight, the police would have deployed its resources in various strategic locations throughout the state. And that is in aid of preventing the movements of persons who are not essential services. We are expecting that some persons will be required to move, and those persons would have gone through a process of obtaining certain documentation by way of passes to access these points. So as of tonight, until the what's the next date? I think the 5th?
The 6th of April.
The 6th of April, yes. This 7 p.m., this curfew is going to continue on until such time. So there will be no break in the curfew except for the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, wherein the grocery stores around the country will be given the opportunity to be open for only 4 hours, from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. or midday, to provide the services for persons within their individual parishes. Now, let me explain this a little further. The Commissioner would have spoken about this at length today at another press brief, but I want to explain it a little further for those who did not understand or were not tuned in to hear how he explained it. The idea is that if you are operating a grocery store anywhere in Grenada, you are not allowed to bring in workers from outside to help to operate that store but that you yourself and your family in the immediate household will be the ones that are authorized to operate that store. If you have to bring in people to operate a store and without them you cannot operate, then it means that you will be on lockdown for that period of time. Persons within parishes will access the stores that are within the parish. You cannot leave a parish and go to another parish to access a store. You have to access the stores that are in your parish. And that gives us the opportunity to limit the congregation that happens at most of these stores. All right? So if you have, let's say, 10 stores in a parish and 100 people are looking for grocery product, that can be divided to each of these 10 stores, 10 person per store, and that would allow you to access and get what you want and move on. So again, with that in mind, some of the bigger stores, bigger grocery stores like supermarkets and so on may have some difficulties because they cannot operate these stores by themselves. They have to bring in staff from outside, and that is going to be a problem. So what we anticipate is that a number of the supermarkets, the big supermarkets, will be shut during that 4-hour period. So the idea is to have all the stores, the grocery stores within the parishes open to serve the parish groceries.
So let's break this down a little, because I didn't think about it that way when it was announced.
Yes.
So let's say we're looking at superstores,
yes,
because we don't want to be biased toward any brand. And superstores is located at, say, River Road. Mm-hmm. But superstores needs to have workers come from St. Andrew to operate superstores, or the workers need to journey in from a distance. What are you saying here?
Right, they cannot move. They cannot cross the border of the parish, because we have our patrols and our setup controlling the movements of persons within the parish. So if you're coming from a parish, you're going to meet a checkpoint. At that checkpoint, you have to present your documents, that is your pass, to show that you have legitimate reasons to cross the border.
But SCP, I'm an essential service, because I'm working at a grocery store. I'm not going to shop, I'm going to work. Right. So let me travel from Budge Grove to Lagoon Road, no?
No.
No?
Budge Grove to Lagoon Road, that means you're going to be crossing the boundary line, and that means...
But I'm going to work.
Yeah, but what it is said is that you provide a service in the community or in the parish where you have your setup. So the grocery stores and the supermarkets that have people coming from the parishes to come to work at the store, that is a no-no. And as I say, this is for the first 7 days from now till the 6th. So we are expecting that this is going to work well for us.
I didn't realize that was
yes,
the interpretation of that clause. Go ahead.
And I think this is how serious this thing is. And I think every 7 days, when we look at what we would have done for the past 7 days and we do a review, we realize that we have to take more drastic steps in preventing this mass crowd gathering and this basically refusal to observe the safe distancing protocol.
Okay.
So this is one step again further into getting us to comply. It may mean that we don't know what the next 7 days might be. It might even be more drastic than this. So what we are hoping is that persons will comply with this measure now, so that perhaps we would not need to go into a more stringent measure in the next 7 days.
People are hoping that you'd relax
yes,
the regulations.
Yes, this is for all good, all our good. Every single one of us are subjected to this virus, and if we don't exercise this protocol, we can become victims not sooner than later.
Okay, so you want to move on to the next point you want to highlight?
So we talk about the patrols and the checkpoints. Again, if you are not an essential worker and have not been issued with a pass, you cannot access the checkpoints. We've had some difficulties in getting all the essential workers issued with the relevant passes in the last couple of hours. We were really struggling to see if we could have made the deadline for 7. But there are quite a number of essential services that has not been issued with the pass. And so there is a protocol, or there is a provision for us to accommodate them through the checkpoint once they are able to present a valid company-issued ID yes, at the checkpoint, we are going to refer to the list that we will receive from the company to verify that that person is a person that is crossing the border, and that person will be allowed to move.
So
outside of that, you need to present a pass that has been issued to you by the RGPF.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And some people think that I grin too much, but you just can't be saddened.
Yes, yes.
So one of my employees had a very interesting experience on Friday. So she was going home, and when she got to Labrie, she got to Sam's, the hospital.
Yes.
She said out the doorway, this police vehicle just sped out of the lower Labrie Road and then parks across the way, so it blocks, it impedes her progress.
Yes.
And then these police officers jump out of the van, guns drawn. And she started to laugh because she's like, okay, well, yeah, we know that are late and not supposed to be on the road, but what all of this drama for? And so she started to laugh, and now this is serious business. This is serious business.
Yes.
Is that intended to intimidate people, or?
I think it's more about letting people know how serious this thing is. I remember as a little boy, maybe a teenager or so, a few years ago, many years ago, when we had a all day and all night curfew. And
that was the curfew, and that was a curfew.
Right. But I mean, I remember the implication of that on social gathering life in a general. And trust me, that was a period of time that, you know, the seriousness of a curfew is always emphasized by some level of force that can be applied to get people to comply. People just want to go about doing things, whether it's for fun or just to defy the authorities.
No, but if you have somebody who doesn't have a strong countenance, I mean,
yes.
I had another employee, so we were actually laughing at the employee today and teasing her about it. But there was this other employee, she was like, if that was me, I was going to faint, I was going to be bawling and screaming.
Yes.
So, I mean, the officers, I think, had to be considerate. You might have somebody that we caught and cause a heart attack.
Yes, and maybe that will be the case because we need people to comply. And we will do everything that we can to get people to comply. We've seen in some other jurisdiction, and I'm saying this not necessarily that this is how we think, but I've seen in other jurisdiction where other measures have been used to get people to comply. Okay? So the idea is that the officers will be forceful, the officers will be firm in getting people to comply. And however that firmness is expressed, we are hoping that it does not deter the officer from carrying out his duty or getting compliance from the individual.
So, Mr. Prince, make it clear that you were not able to issue the passes to the media and tell the officers, don't lock me up in the cell tonight, I need to go home.
Right. Well, as we said, the provision is made that once Odette has her GBN issued ID, as she comes up to the roadblock, she can present it. The officers will look at the list and see Odette Campbell is authorized to move, and you will have access.
Me, I'm afraid to go home tonight because I think I'll sleep in the building. So let's move along and look at slide number 2. We're going to ask the producers to assist us with slide number 2 so we could keep examining the regulations so that people are aware of them.
Yes.
So people are only to leave for?
Right. So you are only allowed to leave for food or medicine or medical emergencies, grocery stores, shops, and shops will be open.
And I think you mentioned the specified days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right, yes. And every establishment or business shall remain closed, including restaurants, right? Now, people would say, well, okay, restaurants are serving food and so on, so why not keep them open? The medical people have a responsibility to ensure that they do not allow and create any environment for gathering or mass crowd gathering and the unnecessary movement of people. Obviously, food preparation for mass crowd or many people will involve many people. And so you would have a situation where people will gather together. But the intention here is to reduce that as much as possible. And so that's why the decision has been taken to reduce these gatherings by closing these places. And again, I say it's for 7 days. If we get compliance within 7 days and things change, then we can see some sort of return into some sort of other provision where persons can do other things. But for now, this is the direction that is given, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I want to encourage those persons who are operating businesses, especially the shops, and this is highlighted throughout, and we've seen a lot of sort of a camouflaging between rum shops and grocery stores or grocery shops, where they are twinned. In other words, most of the grocery shops in the communities and in the parishes are also rum shops. They sell alcoholic beverages, and sometimes more alcoholic beverages than groceries. But as is stipulated, no alcoholic sale and consumption on those premises. So if you are found to be doing this, then you will be dealt with the strictest of the law. Again, we are asking persons to comply. And all the other areas that have not been mentioned as being exempted, you are to close your place. And you cannot, the police cannot give you a permit when it's already established that you should be closed. The police would not give you a permit to allow you to be open.
What's the rationale behind the no alcohol sale?
I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think it has to do with the experience over the last few days, or last curfew that we had from 7 to 5. We've seen a lot of violations. We've seen a lot of violations of that. And I think that is the reason why it has gone to that level.
Okay.
Again, every time we move the notch up one, it is because somewhere along the line, what we would have established has not worked.
Okay.
So we're going to move the notch up every time we realize that is the case.
Okay. Let's just take a look at the slide again. There was a point that I think we needed to follow up on it. I think it had to do with, establishment or business shall remain closed, including restaurants.
Yes.
And if we go to the following slide, I think it mentions people seeking essential movement is allowed for travel to shops to sell groceries, grocery stores and supermarkets. These will be open for business between 8 and 12 Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays.
Good.
And then I think medical people needing medical attention, people could also travel for medical attention, because we have somebody who is saying, for instance, that they're on Melville Street and their father recently had surgery and he needs to go to the station next door to get treatment, and the person is worried about venturing out. Right.
No, medical emergencies are always emergencies.
But it's not an emergency. They have to visit the clinic to get dressing because they had surgery last week.
Right. Well, that could be easily addressed. What we need to do, and those persons need to do, is to call the 911 number and relay your story. If it means that you did not have a pass to be, or you're not in the essential services sector, and you need to move, especially in a case like that, then you call the 911 number. We have our patrols out. We have our checkpoints out. What we're going to do is to just inform them that XYZ is going to move. Once you give a full detailed description of who is moving, where you're moving to, what road you're going to be on, and those sort of things, because those are the information that would help us to allow you to access where you want to go.
Okay, sure. All right. The next point you wanted to highlight, because I'm certain there are some things you want to ensure the public knows.
Well, right. So again, we want to emphasize the people trying to do a fast one. You have a rum shop, and you feel okay, you have a few friends around the community that want to come into the rum shop, so you're going to close your door and entertain them on the inside. That again is a no-no. Right? The police will enter and will deal with you. We also have, again, the sale of alcohol from the back door and those sort of things. The police, again, will deal with you on that. So we're asking persons to desist from this. It's for 7 days. Let's see how that will work, and then we'll see if we could kind of come back to some sense of normalcy after that. But this 7-day period is one that is serious, and we must take it seriously, all of us.
And again, forgive me, Grenadian people. Today I was listening to the press conference, and I found it so funny that one of the officers was saying, "We know you're in there, and we're coming in."
Yep. And that's what exactly the case is. If we know you're in there, we're going to come in. Yes, because the mass crowd gathering, you're in a public, your shop is a public place, and therefore that would be a violation against the regulations.
Okay, I know you want to highlight the essential services, but let's go to the other slide that we have before we go on to the essential services and see what it is that there's something else. One person from each, you're limiting the number of people who are allowed to leave a household at any given time.
Right.
So one person from each household shall be allowed to leave their residence once during a grocery day to attend shops to sell groceries, supermarkets within their own parish.
Right.
Why are you limiting me to one? I might need help to carry the groceries.
Well, we're hoping that you would not need help. We're hoping that you would be able to carry whatever it is that you're going to carry. So you plan your grocery list in a way that you'll be able to carry for yourself. Because again, if you bring someone with you, another person bring someone with them, and so on, and then we say, okay, I need 2 people to help me with my grocery. Some people might need 3 people to help you. That means you're already violating the protocol as it relates to your vehicle. You're going to have more than 3 people in your vehicle, or 2 people in your vehicle, and that, so there are several things that will add to the problem when we start increasing the numbers of persons who are allowed to move. So the whole idea is to reduce the amount of persons that will move at any one time, so that we would not have a situation where we have a congregation building up.
And while you're on vehicles, I think we could go to the next slide, which deals with the number of people in a vehicle.
Right.
Buses can carry only 1 person in a row of seats. Cars can only carry 1 person other than the driver.
Yes.
There shall be no for-hire vehicles used for this purpose.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, and that's straightforward. People will try to capitalize around this time and try to do some stuff that perhaps they might feel that the police is not looking, so they would try to pull a fast one. Again, you're not just, when you try to get away from the police by doing the wrong thing, this is not what we want you to do. And you don't get praise for that. What you're doing is that you're endangering yourselves, and you're endangering the same people that you are bringing together in this congregation in your vehicle, whether it's 4 people in your vehicle. And you might think, well, yes, you're making a fast one, you could make some money in a sneaky way. You are exposing persons to the danger, and that is what is dangerous for us. And so if we find you doing that, then we'll deal with you seriously.
But there's an argument that employees who are in the essential services sector, such as media, are coming from the parish of St. Andrew.
Right.
And so they need to have at least 3 people in the vehicle. So what happens there? Would there be an exemption?
That is a violation. There's no exemption. Every vehicle must have and must operate according to the stipulation.
But
so
ACP,
you may have to have more vehicles or get a bigger vehicle that will allow you to have 3 and 4 people in it.
But ACP, you want the information disseminated. When you call the press conference, you want the reporters there.
Yes.
And they can't get another vehicle.
You know what? We have a really nice media friend, I would say, in the name of Zoom. We heard about Zoom, right? So you don't have to leave the comfort of your home to get the story. And most of our press releases now are done through Zoom. So that could reduce the movement as well. And I'm sure that you have a way of receiving these reporters' messages without they having to come to the station to do so.
But ACP, when I come to the press conference and I want to find the salient points and I need to edit the clips, I must be in-house to do it.
All right, I agree with that, but editing would be done by one person, and that's yourself, right?
No.
So, right.
Anyway, let's go on to the other slide, because I know you want to deal with essential services, so let's go on to the other slide and see what we have there. Which part of the regulation we're going to be dealing now? I think, right, so I think that was it for vehicles, number of vehicles per person. So we will go on in a little bit to the essential services, because I know you wanted to highlight that as well.
Yes, thank you.
But at this time, let me just introduce, we did promise that we are going to have Dr. Memoli joining us, Dr. Matthew Memoli joining us via Skype, and I believe we have made contact with him. We'll be looking also at the health implications, because you keep saying that you want to keep this virus down and keep it away.
Yes.
So, Dr. Memoli, we want to welcome you and to introduce you to Assistant Commissioner of Police, Jesmond Prince. He is responsible for operations, and thank you so much for sparing the time. How are things in the U.S.?
Sure, thank you. Things are going along. We are dealing with the virus the best we can throughout the country, and doing all the social distancing that I heard your police chief discussing.
So you are affiliated with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. What is your institute's role in helping to fight this virus in the U.S.?
So the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases is part of the National Institutes of Health here in the U.S. We are the large U.S. government research organization for medical research. And so we're playing a leading role in leading the development of treatments and vaccines, as well as gaining further understanding of the virus, how it spreads, and how we need to deal with it. So really, the NIH is playing two major roles. One is directing and funding a large portion of the research that's going on throughout the U.S. and even in the world. And then the other part, which is where I'm located on the NIH campus and some of the satellite campuses, I work as a physician scientist working to try to better understand viruses like this coronavirus and other pandemic viruses like influenza in order to produce better vaccines, test out new vaccines, and test therapeutics.
So based on the research that you've done so far, people are asking, why is this virus even more difficult, let's say, than the standard flu or a virus that comes around regularly? We know it's spring and the pollen grains are showering down on us, and people are wondering, what makes the difference here?
Sure. So this virus is a respiratory virus, just like influenza or the flu. And as your viewers may be aware, the flu causes a lot of disease every year all over the world, including many, many deaths. We have oftentimes 35,000, 40,000 deaths in the U.S. due to flu in a given year. But the difference here is that this virus is a virus that no one has seen before, and that your immune system, your body, hasn't experienced it before. And so the majority of the population in the world has no defense against this virus pre-existing, whereas all of us have experienced influenza or the flu in our past. And so our body at least has some ability to recognize it and try to fight it. And so in the instance of this kind of situation, the virus can spread very rapidly. And so with influenza, it sort of slowly comes on, goes through the community, causes disease, but it doesn't happen all at once. And the problem here with this is, as this virus spreads very rapidly, it can cause infections of an entire community all at one time. And that can become very overwhelming for healthcare providers and hospitals all over the world in order to keep up with the issues. The other issue is, because your body hasn't recognized this virus like it does the flu, there's a higher likelihood of complication or more severe illness that we have to deal with, which puts certain people at a much higher risk of ending up in the hospital or possibly even death.
And one of the concerns has been about the fact that it's taking and has taken a toll on elderly citizens. Are there any particular groups of people that you're concerned about, especially, say, for instance, kids, pregnant women, and we've heard about the impact it has on people with underlying health conditions, such as diabetes?
Yes, so we are very concerned about certain groups, and we have lots of information now from the outbreak in China, the outbreak in Italy and Europe, and now our own outbreak here in the U.S. We have quite a number of cases in New York City, and they've been very good at releasing data on the types of people that have been getting infected and even dying in New York. And so what we have seen with this pandemic is that it does particularly affect elderly people, particularly over 55, really 65 and older. But even more so, it affects people who have underlying illness. So many of elderly folks are not completely healthy. It's just sort of part of aging. You develop other diseases as you get older very frequently. And so that really puts you at a high risk. But also we have to worry about younger people, even under those ages, who do have those diseases. So as you mentioned, diabetes is one of those diseases that is an issue that leaves you vulnerable, as well as different kinds of cancer, any kind of respiratory disease, so any disease of the lungs. Anybody who smokes frequently is a very heavy smoker, that could potentially put you at higher risk. Asthma, and often there are other kinds of diseases that people need to take certain kinds of medications that affect their immune system, such as steroids and other immune-affecting drugs. So we are worried about all of those people. Now, interestingly, it seems that kids have been spared from this disease, and that's very good news, and that children under 19 really have not suffered much from the illness. So a healthy child under 19, the risk seems to be fairly low of severe disease and death. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have to protect them. We do. but it does seem to be different than influenza, where influenza affects children greatly. This virus does not seem to be doing that. The other group is pregnant women. Luckily, it has not been affecting pregnant women as much as influenza does. Influenza is very bad in pregnant women, but luckily, again, it hasn't been affecting pregnant women quite as much, probably because they tend to be young and generally healthy. So it really seems to be the elderly and people with underlying illnesses. Oh, I should also mention heart disease. Heart disease is a very big risk factor with this illness. So people with congestive heart failure, previous heart attacks, we need to be very focused on protecting them as well.
That explanation. And ACP Prince, based on a lot of the things that he said, I could hear you saying, yes, Grenada. Yes. Yes. That's what we've been trying to say. So,
yes.
And you're not taking action just because you want to be.
Exactly. And the big picture here is about saving and protecting and securing ourselves in the best way possible, that we can actually live, a healthy life and not have to be worried about this for many years to come. So yes, that's the idea. Everybody wants Grenada to return to normalcy. So understanding how dangerous and how serious this thing is, I mean, with our responsibility as law enforcement, if that is what we have to do to ensure that people comply and that we return to that state, then we have to do it. And we will leave no stone unturned in doing it, and to do it the best of our ability to ensure that the desired outcome is achieved.
How much of a strain is this putting on the RGPF?
It is strenuous, but I must say that the work hours of officers are reduced significantly, so one person is not into an environment or into any particular shift of duty for too long, so they have a time to be fresh, do whatever they have to do, and then come back, take some rest, and then to go again for another short period of time. So the rotation and the cycle of rotation is is less strenuous than in on other occasions, because we understand that we're in this for the long haul. So it is not that strenuous, but it is demanding, because officers have to be out there, and the things that we would have been doing otherwise then have to take will have to be secondary to what we are doing currently.
So the people who plan to take a walk, how you plan to handle that?
Well, those people who want to take a walk, if you're walking in your backyard, we have no problem with that. But it is better if you stay within your compound and do circles around your house, get your exercise, or walk up into your garden or whatever the case might be and do a thing. If you don't have a bigger yard, then I think a small yard with walking around the house would help to build up the pulses, so that you can feel a little bit good about yourself. But coming out on the street and walking on the street will create a concern. If the officers catch up with you, you'd have to give a reason why you are on the street. So again, exercising, and I heard doctor did mention that it's a good thing for persons who may have symptoms and so on, and showing that it will be good if you can do a little walk, but you should do so and avoid yourself from being exposed to the being challenged by the security forces in terms of why you are on the street. So if you can do so in your backyard, on your steps in your house, some people have steps in their house, they can walk up and down the steps to build up the pulses. That would give them some form of exercise. So anyhow you can do your exercises in your house or in your yard, then that would work. You don't necessarily have to come out on the streets.
So you're saying that people could go into the backyard and probably go up into the hills, and the police would not be patrolling the hills?
Right. We will not be in your garden trying to tell you not to go into your garden. We're glad if you could go into your garden and walk around your house or whatever you can do to get yourself fit and to stay healthy.
Okay, this is Beyond the Headlines on GVN Television. Tonight we're speaking with ACP Jessamine Prince, Assistant Commissioner of Police with Responsibility for Operations, and we have been joined via Skype by Dr. Matthew Memoli, Director of Clinical Studies Unit, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. We take a break and we'll be right back.
Conveniently located in the Grand Anne Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grand Anse will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
Despite the situation we now face, one thing is for certain. We will get through this together. As much as we are a part of your community, you are a part of who we are. Let's take care of each other during this time, as we always do. And soon, we know that with the dawn of that new day, all of this will be over, and our land will once again be healed. In the meantime, stay safe. Know that we're here for you. Courts, bringing value home.
It's what's inside that counts. Inside your house, that is. With Beacon, you can ensure everything inside your home with our Easy Buy contents packages. Just click, match, and buy for maximum peace of mind with minimum fuss. Log on to beacon.co.tt and choose your package today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. As we mentioned earlier, just in case you're joining us late, we are joined tonight in studio by Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for operations, Mr. Jesmond Prince, and via Skype by Dr. Matthew J. Memoli. He's the Director of the Clinical Studies Unit, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Memoli, we thank you so much for joining us. And somebody out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is asking a question. If I can go quickly to the question. The person is asking, just bear with me one quick second, can a person recover from COVID-19 and get it again? In other words, will there be an immunity to it?
Yes, so this is a very good question by that person in St. Vincent. So typically with respiratory viruses, when you have them, after you recover, you have some immunity that typically is protective for at least some period of time. So we would expect that after recovering from this infection, that you should be protected at least for some period of time. Typically for things like influenza and other viruses, that's around at least 6 months. And hopefully you would have at least a level of immunity so that in the future, if you were to be infected, even say a year or two later, your body would remember that and would be able to fight it much better than it can now. Now, I will say what I'm telling you is based on what we know about other respiratory viruses, influenza and other coronaviruses. So I don't know for sure that that's the case with this virus, but it seems very likely that that is the case. So what we won't know for a while is whether or not this virus, after the pandemic runs its course and we're all able to return to normal life, whether we will continue to see infections with this virus or it will go away completely. And we can't predict that at this point in time. It may be that once enough people have had it, it won't be able to cause infections and it will go away, and I hope that's the case. Or it's also possible that despite people having immunity, they will be able to be infected a year or two later, but the hope and the likelihood would be that those infections would not be as bad as they are now the first time everyone's experiencing the virus.
And so there are thousands of people worldwide, and we've been looking at what's been happening in Italy, for instance, and the US, the numbers are climbing there, who have tested positive for COVID-19, but they don't experience any symptoms. So with that in mind, what approach do you recommend for Grenadians, especially with social distancing? This is something that the police has been grappling with, trying to tell people you need to stay, confine yourselves to your home, but people are not, and people have been going to the supermarkets in droves. So based on what you've seen, what is your recommendation to the Grenadian public?
Yeah, so this is a big problem with these kinds of respiratory viruses, in that often they have this what we call window period, in that people, before they become symptomatic with the disease, walk around carrying the illness and are able to spread it before they even know they have it. And in other cases, you have people who never know they have it and are able to spread the disease despite not having it. Now, we do believe that people are more infectious when they're symptomatic, typically with respiratory viruses. But even so, there is a risk that someone with no symptoms could transmit it to someone else. Therefore, the social distancing measures are being put in place throughout the world. And at this point in time, this is really the only defense we have, given we don't have a vaccine or a good treatment. So what your police chief has been describing, people staying home except for absolute necessary trips out for necessary work or necessary purchases of groceries at the appropriate times, is really going to be appropriate. Also, we're going to have to limit any kind of gatherings. I know we all like to hold social gatherings as well as maybe go to church or other types of events, but at this point in time, it's being recommended all around the world that we stay away from those gatherings because all it will take is a single person who could then transmit to a large group of people who are then able to amplify it when they go back home to their families or at work or with other people. So we're trying to limit people to staying home, just staying in contact with their immediate family. Definitely trying to protect the older or sicker people in your population by just having the people who need to be around to help them get by, take care of them, but not having too many visitors with those folks. And really just trying to minimize how much in-person contact you're having with different people. And hopefully, by doing that for a short period of time, we'll be able to abrogate or end the transmission of this virus quickly so that we can all get back to normal life.
Vigorously, you keep nodding on the points Dr. Memoli is making.
Yeah, because this is the point. This is the whole idea of us wanting to get back to normalcy. Nobody wants to be confined to their home permanently. We understand it is uncomfortable, but this has a good result at the end. It has a good result at the end. So all we're asking persons to do is to cooperate. The medical people know what they're talking about. It's not a joke. This is not something that you play with. Everyone's life is at stake in this matter. So just comply. It wouldn't hurt. 7 days would not hurt, and it would not kill you. It would probably protect your life. Yeah. And that is what we, as the RGPF, will try to help to do.
I want to come back first to deal with the essential services, but I just want to cross back and ask Dr. Memoli a question. Doc, are you nervous about getting COVID-19 or about probably giving it to your family? How do you deal with that possibility running through your mind, maybe?
Right, so this is a possibility for not only myself, but also my wife, who is a pulmonary critical care physician who works in the ICU in Washington, D.C., where they currently, I believe, have 9 cases in their ICU. And we have 2 small children at home, so it's certainly something we think about. But it's not a time to panic. There's no reason to panic. There's also no reason to be overly fearful. Obviously, we need to be careful and protect ourselves and others in the community, but also realize that there are lots of things that are dangerous to all of us humans, and we are at risk of those things every day. And here in the DC area, just driving on the highway can be very risky. So there's no need to panic, but we do need to be smart. And so we are smart in our house. My kids are out of school. We've closed all schools in this area. They are staying home. My wife and I are limiting our trips out to just necessary work trips and necessary grocery trips, and otherwise are staying just home with our family, our immediate family. Frequent hand washing, especially after you go out, keeping your hands away from your face, again, especially while you're out or after you've touched things and before you've washed your hands. These kinds of actions are very important. The other thing is maintaining your health. The healthier you are, the less risk there is to you of severe disease or death. And so, eating a healthy diet, maintaining, I heard you talking about exercise earlier in your backyard or in your house. Doing those things can boost your immune system and be very helpful. Avoiding smoking, avoiding any kind of use of drugs or other kinds of things that could be bad for your health. These are all things that can help protect you from this disease. And so we make sure to, follow all the guidelines for social distancing. We exercise every day, and overall, don't worry.
You mentioned going out for grocery shopping just now, and I wanted to ask you about some people, the trend about washing groceries, but somebody's asking a question here on our social media platform. Why the virus started in China and not in another part of the world?
I think you asked the question was, why did the virus start in China?
Yes, and not in another part of the world.
Yeah, so I can't say that we know exactly why it started in China at this point. They definitely have some factors that could play a role. It's believed that this virus originates in bats, but then may have gone through other animal species before infecting humans. And it's possible that some of the open animal markets where they sell meat in China were a factor, but we don't know that for sure. Otherwise, it may have just been chance that it occurred there. So I can't give you a good reason exactly why it happened. The best guess at this point is it has to do with the open animal markets. But again, there's no absolute proof of that at this point. Diseases can emerge in other parts of the world, and they have. We've had other diseases emerge out of many different parts of the world. If some of you may remember the Zika outbreak that emerged in South America, the Ebola outbreaks that have emerged in Africa, all parts of the world can be at risk for outbreaks of different types. This one just happened to start in China.
Thank you so much, Dr. Memoli, for those explanations there. And I know you have to run off to get something else done, but we normally open the phone lines to take calls. If you can hang around with us, we'd be very grateful, because at this end, we also have to go through the essential services with ACP Prince. So if you can, we shall appreciate, but we will understand you have already sacrificed so much of your time with us this evening, and we thank you sincerely for that. To our viewers and listeners, just to let you know that you can call us at 440-1252. The number will be on the screen, 440-1252. The ground rule is that when you call, you should turn the television, set all your radios down, and also you should just listen through the telephone. We also want to ask people, please, to try and make your questions very brief so that we can accommodate as many people as possible. So, ACP Prince, you wanted to talk about essential services, and we have a slide which deals with that.
Yes, please.
And so there are exceptions, and closure of businesses and exceptions. Every non-essential establishment or business shall remain closed except for the following: wholesale or retail grocery stores and commercial bakeries. That was as of last week, so we'll go past that, and we'll go to the exceptions. Let's fast forward. Producer, thanks. Let's fast forward. Doctors' offices, hospitals, medical facilities, pharmacies, medical supply establishments. That was last week. The gas stations were to open from 6 to 5, but now the gas stations are only opening on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the essential services, and we could go past that again. Let's see, the hotels, we can go past that as well. Let's go down to the emergency services. The exceptions, let's go down. I think we could go further. We want the listing of the essential services. So you'll have to take us, okay, so we're getting there now. Shelter in place, and let's go down. All members of the parliament, we can go down further. Right. Okay, the essential officers of the royal the police force. This essential worker means
workers, yes.
Let's go. Her Majesty's prison. No, let's stay here. Let's stay here. The National Insurance Board has been struck off. That was on the list of us last week, but that has been struck off based on the update. The Department of Social Services, the Department of Environmental Health Services, Customs and Excise Division, the Accountant General's Division,
is there.
Inland Revenue, Waste Disposal and Sanitation.
Well, Inland Revenue has been removed.
Inland Revenue has been removed.
Right, so you have the Accountant General's Division, and that's the only one that is mentioned in the Ministry of Finance.
Okay, updated. So the Waste Disposal and Sanitation companies remain?
Yes.
The hospital, healthcare, medical, residential facilities, the airport and the Ports Authority, with certain exceptions based on what the rules say.
Yes.
And so the essential officers of any water, electricity, or other sector encompassing the provision of electronic communication, including print and electronic media, any other officer or category of officers as directed by the Secretary to the Cabinet, and all essential workers shall at all time carry personal identification.
Exactly. All right. So again, a new, a lot of what you read there is probably from the 25th regulations.
Last week's.
And that has been amended, and we have one that is produced now from the 23rd, sorry, of the 30th of March.
Right, so for the avoidance of doubt, you want to go through the listing?
Right, well, you basically covered all of them.
Okay.
And as I said, persons need to make themselves familiar with it as much as possible. If you have any doubt, you can always call in to get confirmation as to what is what. But it's there and it's open for public viewing at any time.
And there's a question from someone on social media. The person is asking, what would be the police response to walkers in residential areas, gated communities like Wester Hall and Lansapine? So these gated communities, what is the police response to that?
The question would be, first and foremost, how do they get there? How do these people get there? Are they staying in, workers? Because if they are staying in, then they will not be exposed to the kind of movement that we're trying to restrict. However, if the work within that community, gated community, involve those work that are not essential work, like construction and so forth, then that would be dealt with as well. We will move in to deal with that.
But the question is, I hope I didn't misinterpret the question.
Yes.
If I live in a gated community, there's these gated communities like Wester Hall.
Right.
If I live in that area, can I go for a walk? It's
yes,
a
if you are within the gated community, yes, you probably can go for a walk within the gated community.
Within the gated community, you can't venture outside of.
You just would not be able to venture outside of that.
Okay, good. All right, and I believe we have a caller on the line. Caller, good evening. Okay, so the caller will have to call back because we are going against the rule which says you must turn your television or your radio off. You want to go through another point, ACP?
Right, so we've been talking about some of the essential services, and so what obtained in last week's publication or restrictions doesn't necessarily contain in this period the restrictions for this period. So persons need to familiarize themselves with that so that at least you don't get yourself being stopped by the police. All right? Basically, the intention here is that everybody should stay home.
Good.
But the country is running. There are certain things that must be done, and this is where the essential services are given the opportunity to go about to do what they have to do so that we who are at home can continue to enjoy certain amenities that will help us to be comfortable.
Good. We have another caller. Caller, good evening and welcome.
Good afternoon. Online? You hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, I have 14 goats, right? And I'm concerned about tying them out.
You have 14 goats and you're concerned about tying them, but I think you said that people could go to the garden.
Right. So yeah, if your garden is within the community, you're just in the backyard, wherever you can go in your garden from your backyard, or so, but you're not venturing out into the public to get to your garden, then there's no restriction there. You can go to your garden, tie out your animal, and even if you're attending to crops, whether it's catch crops or any sort of seedlings that you have on the ground and you have to do your watering, and you don't have to venture out into the public area to take a vehicle to go from point A to point B, and that you may be crossing boundaries or so, then those are things that you can do without necessarily getting any permission from the police. But if you're going to come out into the public to get to tie your goats, or you're going to have to cross this road or this boundary from this community to this other community to get to your where you want to tie your animal, then those will require you to have some sort of permit to move. All right? But as I know because I'm from the rural community, and I know you can just, from your backyard, you just go to a track and you could get to where you want to go to tie your animals. If that is your case, then you have no problem in moving and getting that done.
All right, so we have a question here on social media. Were police officers taught to approach persons respectfully and not behaving in a manner to aggravate a situation?
Right. Well, I think the only time you'd find that the police might be a little bit rough, and probably should be, is when you are violating this very curfew that we've been talking about for the longest while. And I hope you are not expecting the police to come and be nice with you when you know that you are supposed to be operating within the regulations of the curfew, because this is serious business. Now, I'm not saying that to say that the police has the liberty to just, if you are just there and they suspect you to be doing something wrong, and then they'll just come at you and try to be disrespectful. But this is serious business, and we have to understand that and to treat with that in the most serious way that we could. All right? So the police is not going to be too nice in trying to express to you that you are in violation of the curfew. As a matter of fact, any violation now is arrestable, right? And there is a charge and fine and so on that you can face if you are found to be breaking the law, all right? I mean, as I said before, in a curfew, the police and the law enforcement authority at that time has a lot of more powers than you might have under normal circumstances. So, to avoid any sort of disrespect or any kind of ruggedness from the police, you probably want to stay at home, and that's what we've been asking you to do, stay home. Yes.
We have another caller. Good evening and welcome.
Yes, good evening, greetings. Yes, Mr. Police Officer, to the host and the guest, good evening. I have a question for each one of you. First, to the medical professional. Can you tell us, sir, what level of susceptibility to the wrath of this virus do people who suffer with hyperosmia have? And to the commissioner, Mr. Prince. Mr. Prince, there are certain people in this here country who suffer with disabilities. Clearly, we have evidence of some of them dying in their own homes for lack of medical attention. Under these circumstances, are there anything or have any consideration been given how these people can get some sort of attention to even get purchases done and things like that in certain distances away, as in my case or so? And must indeed tell you too, finally, that anybody who breaks the curfew should be pardoned, managed. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Memoli, is he still there with us? Dr. Memoli.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good, go ahead.
Sure, so I think the caller asked about hyperosmia, was that correct?
Sounds like that, yes.
Okay, so hyperosmia is a condition where people have a heightened sense of smell. They tend to smell certain odors more strongly than other people, and sometimes those odors can cause them to have complications like vomiting or discomfort from the smell. I'm not aware that having hyperosmia alone would put you at any increased risk of developing an infection from this virus or having a complication for this virus. There are, however, some illnesses that can lead to hyperosmia or conditions that are associated with hyperosmia that could potentially do this. A common cause of hyperosmia, which many women may have experienced, is pregnancy. Many pregnant women experience hyperosmia. There are certain kinds of disorders of the body's immune system, the body's ability to fight disease, that can cause hyperosmia. So if you had one of those types of conditions, then I would say you would be at an increased risk of disease or complication. And so you'd have to be careful.
Question that I've been meaning to ask you, groceries. Should people be washing their groceries like you when you come from the supermarket?
So I think we have to be careful when we go to the grocery store, but we don't have to sort of overdo it either. So I don't think it's necessary to wash each individual piece of fruit. I've seen some people talking about, taking oranges and apples and putting them in soap baths and things like that. I think bringing your groceries home, again, while you're shopping, when you're bringing your groceries home, you want to avoid touching your face and touching your mouth and nose. When you get home, unload your groceries, take them out of the bags, get rid of the bags, put your groceries away the way you normally would, and then wash your hands very carefully. I think that's a very reasonable approach. There have been studies that have shown that the virus can be detected off certain surfaces like cardboard and other surfaces for long periods of time. But what you have to realize about those types of studies is although they may be able to detect the virus there, it doesn't mean that that virus is infectious or that there's enough of it to give you an infection. So typically respiratory infections spread from person to person due to close contact or from objects that have been coughed on or touched by somebody who just touched their secretions in some way, their mouth or nose, touch them, and then you touch that object right away afterwards. Hours later is not a typical way that a virus like this would transmit. So overall, I don't think it's necessary for you to wash or overdo the cleaning of your groceries, but being smart as you purchase them, bring them home, unload them, and washing your hands again, being very careful not to touch your face would be very important.
We have another caller. Caller, thanks for being patient. Good evening.
Good night. You're welcome. I have one question. What is the procedure in obtaining a pass from the police since the curfew already started and you have to venture out to the community to see about your animals?
You have to venture out into the community to see about?
Your animals.
Your animals.
Or you have to use transport.
What we have in place is that you apply to the Commissioner of Police for a pass, indicating where you are living and where you intend to go to take care of your animal. Commissioner will look at it, and once the permit is granted, you will be given specific instruction as to how, or direction as to how that pass must be used. So you have to apply to the Commissioner, and the application should be made to the Royal Grenada Police Force email address, which is rgpf@spiceisle.com, so that instead of walking and having to deliver it, a response will be given to you via email as well.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Right. If I could just go to the question that was raised by the caller before.
Sure.
Right. Now, while the Act does not speak to any particular way of dealing with persons with disability, I believe that we are a people that understands how persons with disability have a difficult time. And so we can make provision, and we will make provision for persons with disability who is seeking medical attention. And certainly the law the regulation make provision for persons who are seeking medical attention to proceed. Now, if you're talking about medication that you are required to have on a regular basis, I think once you establish with your physician, which I think most people who are predisposed with some form of illness will have a physician that looks after them on a regular basis. They probably can arrange so that they can get a supply of medication that can last them for the 7 days. And I think that is why the medical people in drafting these regulations would have considered that persons with illnesses can be supplied with a certain amount of medication that can last them for that period of time.
Okay, good. Do we have a caller? We have a question here from someone on social media. They're asking, what is the police plans with regard to the guys who get arrested? Would you be traveling with them at the back of the police van to make a public example of them? Right.
Well, that is one of the things that we have been discussing within the organization, but of course we have to also, I mean, we are subjected to the rules as well in terms of the social distancing. And so, yes, we will want to make a public statement about persons who have been arrested for violating this, but it's not a show. We want to do so with the strictest respect for the human person, but at the same time we want to send a strong signal that if you violate the curfew, then you will be dealt with the strictest hand of the law. What we try to do is to avoid as much as possible any physical contact with any person that we may have to arrest. And clearly instructions have been given to officers to be properly geared. As a matter of fact, officers should be in the vehicle equipped with certain gears like mask and glove, and even the PPE, should they come up to a situation that would require them to be cladded accordingly, they will be putting on the appropriate gear to address and to handle some situations like that. So the arrest of a person, yes, we would like to put and make a public show, but it is not a deliberate act. If that's the vehicle that we have with a pickup, or we may have our prisoner van, as we have a number of them around the island, we would use those as much as possible to bring them in and have them processed. The idea here is to arrest and charge as much as possible. We may have to put you in the cells for a period of time before we can release you. Again, it depends on the circumstances. Or we may release you on your own bail. We may release you with a warning. We may release you pending a court hearing by summons. But all of those are options that we have. But every case, we would want to send the strongest signal that we don't have a repeat of those offenses again.
We have a call on the line who has a question for Dr. Memoli. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Campbell. I'd like to ask the doc if he can give me an idea of how soon you think they will be able to get a vaccine.
Thank you so much. Dr. Memoli, somebody's on the line asking, how soon you think a vaccine might become available?
So this is, obviously we're working very hard to identify and make vaccines that will protect people from this illness. Vaccines take time. We are doing everything to accelerate that process as much as possible. I don't know if you're aware, there is one vaccine that has moved into the first phase of clinical trials here in the United States. That first phase is typically looking at the safety of the vaccine. After that's complete, the vaccine will have to be tested to see if it actually works. So that will take some time, but I think, we will be working to try to have some vaccines over the course of this year that we will be testing. I can't predict if those vaccines will work in that we don't know for sure until we actually test them in people. So I can't tell you that we'll have a vaccine this year, but I can tell you that we're working very hard to try to have one this year. But if not this year, we will certainly be continuing to work on vaccines to protect against this. And I can tell you personally that I, in my research efforts, am working on vaccines not only for this coronavirus, but to try to protect against all coronaviruses so that we don't undergo a coronavirus pandemic again in the future with a different virus. I've spent the last 15 years working on influenza and trying to develop vaccines to protect us against all influenza. And so now we'll be working on both of these things because we want to prevent this kind of pandemic from happening again in the future.
We have another caller on the line. Caller, good evening. We have a caller with us? Caller, good evening and welcome.
Calling to find out what provision is being made for persons who have to go to the Monge Hospital to collect their medication.
That would fall under accessing medical care.
Yes.
And once you have the relevant documentation and justification for your travel, that would be considered.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. This is Beyond the Headlines on GBN Television. We're getting ready to wrap up the program. We have with us ACP Jesmond Prince and Dr. Matthew Memoli, Director of Clinical Studies Unit, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. We will be right back.
Antibacterial washing powder, fresh and clean. When I put on me clothes, me must win. When I wash me clothes, no other detergent could ever wash me clothes like this.
Now buy 3 bottles of Clay's dishwashing liquid for only $8. Available at Best for Less Supermarket, Eat Fresh Supermarket, MNC Joe's Supermarket, Hope Pride Supermarket, The Food Fairs, Carenage and Grandance, Roberts Enterprise, Springs Food Mart, and Charlo's Supermarket.
Other Clay's products available: hand sanitizer, fabric softener, hand washing liquid, dishwashing liquid, and toilet cleaners. Distributed by Fortune Foods Company Limited, Tempe St. George.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
Despite the situation we now face, one thing is for certain. We will get through this together. As much as we are a part of your community, you are a part of who we are. Let's take care of each other during this time, as we always do. And soon, we know that with the dawn of that new day, all of this will be over, and our land will once again be healed. In the meantime, stay safe. Know that we're here for you. Courts, bringing value home.
The public is hereby advised that the offices of Sun General Insurance, St. George's and Grenville would be closed from March 26th until further notice. Should you require assistance, please contact us at the following numbers. Fixed lines 440-0217 or 438-4138. On mobiles 420-2348, 405-8736, 405-8734 or 405-8732. Payments can be made directly to our bank account at any of the CIBC First Caribbean International Bank outlets.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. And ACP Prince, you want to go back on a point made by Dr. Memoli, but let's just first take a call. Caller, good evening.
Good afternoon, good night. As far as I'm concerned, the police minister is making some good statement, but to me it's serious. For example, if you are a farmer and your land is about 15, 20 miles, in other words, let's say I'm living in St. George's and I have to go to St. Andrews, do you think that whenever I'm passing to go to the lands, that you have confidence in the police so that possible they would have forms you tell them where you're going, and they'll give you maybe a farm setting that you're entitled to go from A to B. Now, when I look at it, you're telling me I do not have those nice gadgets as you. So to do what I have to do online and so on. Mm-hmm. So would you try to bring a pass, give me, so that if I want to go to my garden up in St. Andrews, I'm living in St. George's area, I can get it?
Yes, certainly. And this was a discussion that we had today.
But you're going to bring it at my home for me in St. George's?
Caller, thank you so much. He's about to answer the question. Thank you so much.
Right. That was one of the concerns that we had, because we understand our farming community may not always be that IT savvy, information technology savvy. So the arrangement is made for you to make contact with the station within your district or within your community, make contact with them. They would facilitate you and give you the necessary assistance to obtain that pass that you would need to access your property. So those persons who are within the community that does not have the access to a computer that you can send an email, you can go to the station in the community and make a request. They will take the information and forward it so that we can process it and send the information back to you to give you access to your property.
Thank you so much. Dr. Memoli, we have a question here. In terms of cleaning your house, what are some of the things people can do?
Sure. So, we're recommending that that you clean your house regularly, particularly focusing on areas of the home that are touched very frequently. So things like door handles, countertops, things that you or other people moving through your home may be touching frequently. What we're recommending that you clean with are any of your typical cleaning supplies that are rated for getting rid of any kind of bacteria, microorganisms, viruses. You can also make an alcohol solution, anything 70% or higher of alcohol. Also, you could make a diluted bleach solution for cleaning appropriate surfaces. All of those things would be appropriate, but most household cleaners that you can purchase at the grocery store or the hardware store are appropriate for cleaning your home.
Thank you so much. We have a call on the line. Caller, good evening, and thanks for waiting.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. This one is for Doc. Doc, in Grenada here, we have 9 confirmed cases. They have already done their contact tracing, and to date, we have a state of emergency to avoid community spread. From where you sit, how well do you think we are doing on a scale of 1 to 10? What kind of grade would you give us? And to ACP Prince, ACP, is it normal for in a state of emergency for us to be bending over backwards like that? Thank you.
Thanks. Let's go to Dr. Memoli and we come back in studio. Doc, did you grasp the question?
Yes, I did. So I just want to say, I don't think I had a chance to say this earlier. I'm a graduate of St. George's University. So I lived in Grenada for a few years, and I'm very appreciative to all of you in Grenada for providing me with the opportunity to get my medical education, which has led me to where I am today, able to work in the National Institutes of Health, working on research and being able to try to help with this pandemic. So I am familiar with the country. I think that from what I'm hearing, you're doing a very good job. And I think I would give you a very high rating. At this point, with the 9 cases, my understanding of those cases is that they are mostly, if not all, imported. You're taking the steps now to avoid community spread before it starts. And that really is the key. Because once it starts, it becomes much harder to stop. And so by trying to stop it early, hopefully that will limit the amount of time that you have to have these inconveniences of staying home, staying off the streets, staying away from all the places that you like to go. Once you wait for community spread to start, then it can take a much longer time to reduce the spread of the disease, and you'd probably be inconvenienced for a much longer time. So from what I'm hearing from both this show and what I've been told about what's going on in Grenada right now, I think you're doing the right thing.
ACP Prince.
Yes, to the caller, sir, I must say that while it seems as though we are bending backwards, I think we have to appreciate that this is different from a lot of other situations that we may have been faced with in the past. It is a new kind of engagement that, I mean, we are doing for the first time, and it's really testing us to the core. And I think there's a reason why this thing is being done in these phases as it's been done. While it may not be, perhaps to some liking, the best way of dealing with this, but I think it has its merit. And at the end of the day, we would be able to do our own assessment, our own postmortem, and say, did we do well? So we have to wait to see how this plays out. I would prefer to see, I mean, in the interest of the state, that people comply with what is being said and what is being regulated, what is being prescribed by the minister, as much as possible, so we can see the result as the intention is, as it is intended to be. So I cannot say that we are bending over backwards. I think there's a reason for the phase approach on this matter, and let's see how it will play out in the end.
And I believe we have a caller who's been very patient on the line. Caller, good evening. Okay, so you also want to
Yes.
get back to a point about being asymptomatic.
Right, yes. I wanted to get back on this point because this again even strengthens the point that we have been making all along, and even has been prescribed in the regulation, that to avoid the mass crowd gathering and to apply the safe distancing protocol as much as possible, right? We've heard that people can be carrying the virus and they themselves doesn't even know that they're carrying it. There are people who will be carrying it and don't feel sick, they feel normal, and they can go about doing business and so on, right? So when you've been told to enforce and to observe these protocols, the medical people are not telling you that to spoil your fun or to create some kind of discomfort for you. They're telling you that because they know. I mean, so the person who is saying, okay, look, yes, they say that, but I could still go on the beach, me and a couple of my friends, and cook a broth. The person who feel, okay, we could still go in the backyard of a person's house or friend's house and knock some dominoes and drink some rum. You're not listening. You're not listening to these things. And this is the seriousness of this. You are sitting with your friend. He will cough. He will talk loud because of the excitement, the spit and the particles from his speech and all of that is flying in the air. You get some of it going into your system. That's it. You get caught right there. So the idea is not one that would make us worse. Yes, it would spoil some of your fun, but it would be for the good.
And we have a caller on the line. This should be your final caller of the evening.
Yes, good night to ACP Prince and Dr. Matthew. Yes, this is Dr. Andrews. I've been listening attentively, and I feel very happy to hear ACP Prince mention about the care for the animals, because from a veterinary standpoint, I know there are a lot of animals who need to be taken care of. I had applied for the pass, which most likely I get tomorrow, because I have a lot of cases which is pending, you know. I mean, we respect the fact that we have to be inside, and we are considered as doctors as essential services. But at the same time, I think that, I mean, everything is being done very quickly. You cannot hide that. We have to be cognizant of the fact that it's something quickly. The virus is just proliferating very quickly. So probably the post will have enough time to really inform people about passes and so on. That is fine. But at the same time, I'm happy to hear you saying that, you know, so many people have things like big farms, like chicken farms and so on, poultry, and they have all other farms, and they need a little time to go and look after the animals. So, as you said, it's correct, and I I was informed to do the correct thing that you said. I emailed the Commissioner of Police, and I'm waiting on the pass tomorrow so I could go and tend to the sick and injured animals during the day or even during the period of the curfew.
Thank you so much for
that. I want to put one question to Dr. Matthew before we finish. I know you're against time. There's one of the medicine called interferon, which is being produced by the Cuban Chinese doctors. I want to know from, he said he studied in SU. I've worked in SU for a number of times. I've worked with Dr. McPherson, which I think he knows him very well. He does research. And I want to know what he thinks about that medication. I think they use it once the patient is being sick. It boosts the immune system of that patient. So I want to know what is his view on that. And the last point, from a medical point of view, I'm not sure, I don't want to guess his age, but years ago, probably ACP Prince, remember that, there was something called red eye. That was in the 70s, I think 1977, 78, somewhere there. And there was something called back and neck, and also the swine flu in Cuba. And that virus is similar to that. So I wonder, really, people have been saying all kind of theory that is biological, it's biological warfare, but I'm not even 100% sure that it's a virus, because the form of proliferation is very, very quickly. For example, in the States, 100,000 already infected. In Spain, 7,000, 8,000 died. In Italy, 5,000. I've never seen a virus operate in that form. I have treated coronavirus in dogs. It is different.
Caller, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're up on 10 o'clock, and we'd want an answer and closure. Thank you so much for that. We're sorry that we have to cut you, but we're up on 10 o'clock. Dr. Memoli, you want to make a comment there on this? Is he still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes. So I just want to tell the caller that the way the virus is spreading is very characteristic of a virus. We've seen a number of pandemics since 1918 with influenza and, of course, this coronavirus, and this is typical of viral spread of a pandemic. The other question he asked was about interferon. There are different types of interferon that have been tried and used as treatments for various diseases, and some are actually in use as treatment for certain diseases. We're evaluating all options, many different medications, but all of them are going to have to go through a clinical trial that's controlled and that allows us to evaluate how these drugs work or do not work. And I can tell you that we are doing that and continue to come up with new trials every day to try to fight this disease.
Thank you. ACP Prince?
Yes, just to say that, the RGPF has taken its responsibility very seriously, and you will be seeing heightened patrols throughout the day and night throughout the state. Persons who will be moving to provide essential services and to access other services that are provided for during this period of time. You will be checked at the various checkpoints that are established throughout the state. Again, we are appealing to everybody to observe the protocol that has been established, to keep each and every one of us safe, and at the end of the day, we can be soon to be out of this with flying colors.
Dr. Memoli, any closing thoughts you'd like to share before we put a wrap on it tonight?
Sure. Just everyone, please don't panic. Listen to your local health ministry, your police, your local government. They are looking out for you. They are trying to protect the people of the island. I can clearly hear the things that are being put into place. It sounds appropriate. Be careful, be safe, and be healthy.
Thank you so much to you, our viewers and listeners, and we want to say a very special thank you to Assistant Commissioner of Police with responsibility for operations, Jesmond Prince, who has been in studio with us. We had to observe social distance, the protocol of social distances. So whereas there were a couple other people that we would have liked to have in studio with us, we have to limit our guest lineup to one in studio. Dr. Memoli, we want to thank you sincerely for having decided to come on board with us, to collaborate with us, and for staying with us throughout. We know that you have a very busy schedule, and we owe a debt of gratitude to Karen Clement, the Associate of the Communications Department at St. George's University. St. George's University, we tip our hats. We know that you had to make a tough decision to get the students off the island, but you have been collaborating with the Grenadian people by ensuring that we have resource people every week, and we want to thank you sincerely. To you, our viewers and listeners, we just want to thank you for staying tuned to the GBN, just to let you know that as a result of the evolving situation, we too at the GBN have had to make some adjustments in our program lineup and the way we do things, such as Beyond the Headlines. If you've noticed that we've only had one guest in studio for the last couple of weeks. On radio, we have not been entertaining guests in the studio, but we have not shortchanged you. We have used technology using Skype and Zoom to ensure that we present the resource people that are needed. Dr. Martin and others continue to keep us updated. We started a homeschool program which has just gone through the roof, kept our students engaged. We will be forced as a result of the new state of emergency regulations to make some changes as of tomorrow. So we will repeat one of the episodes until we decide long-term how we proceed, because it's a work in progress in terms of how we adjust to the changes that have been announced in the last 24 hours. And also to let you know that we will be merging the programming on our stations Hot 98 and K105. So in the morning, Blossom Alexis Wells, who normally takes you through the morning and sets the pace on K105, you'll be hearing on Hot 98 as well. In the middle of the day on Hot 98, we'll be twinning with our hottest station in Trinidad and Tobago, Hot 93. And so we will hear a different sound on Hot 98, but we're still hot, getting hotter with Hot 93 in Trinidad and Tobago, our sister station there. Changes are going to, we are going to forever making the changes so that we cooperate with the authorities as we too play our role in getting this thing under control and ensuring that all of Grenada is safe. So long for now. Thanks to our producers who continue to make these programs possible. I'm your host, Odette Campbell. Until another program, over and out. ACP Prince, we can't do a handshake. We just stay from far and said it was wonderful having you.
Yes, thanks again.
And Dr. Matthew, remember, we say thank you so much. And to Carrot and team, we appreciate you.
Thank you.